Hey, Skylar here. This class is going to be 30-minute yin yoga class for hikers. It's designed for hikers, but we're going to be focusing on the lower body, the hips, the legs, and really taking care of the base of our body that keeps us doing the things we love. Whether you're a hiker or a jogger, if you do these things, you know how important it is to keep up your joint health so that you can continue to do those things. So we're going to be in each pose for at least 2 minutes. So this is a very slow-paced practice, and we're really going to get into the connective tissues and release tension, and you're going to feel really good after this. So let's just go ahead and get started. And for the first pose, we're going to do dangling. So just go ahead and come to your feet, and you're just going to bring your feet about hips distance apart. You can bring your fists in between your feet as a little measurement, and you're just going to bend your knees, let the belly rest on the thighs, let the crown of the head drop towards the ground, and grab opposite elbows. Taking a moment in this first pose, this first forward fold, to really release any tension that you're holding on to in the spine. Try to make this more about getting length in between, or space in between the vertebrae, rather than length in the backs of the legs. Let the thoughts pass. You find the mind wandering off. Just try to bring your attention back to the present moment, back to the breath. We're going to come onto all fours, so just bring the hands to the mat in front of the feet and step the left foot back, keeping the right foot forward. Let the top of the back foot rest on the ground. And we're going to come into dragon pose, so it's a low lunge, and you can find where you're most comfortable. You can bring your hands up to your knees. Feels nice for just a little bit of a back bend. And you can also keep your hands on the ground on either side of the front foot. You can also use blocks here to just raise you up a bit. We're going to be here for a couple minutes. So find your soft edge, that place where you can feel sensation, but it's not too much. Allow your breath to take you deeper into relaxation. And after a few breaths, you might find you're able to go a little deeper. Perhaps scoot that right foot forward just a bit more. I'm going to keep the knee stacked on top of the ankle. into the opening that's happening through the hips. If you need a little bit of padding under that back knee, one thing that you can do is take your mat and just roll it long ways. So you've got 2 layers of your mat. You can of course bring a blanket under the knee if that works for you as well. And as the saying goes, the issues are in our tissues. Yin yoga is such an amazing practice to let go of stored stress and tension in the body. Bring the attention back to the breath if the mind has wandered. And start to shift your hips back, always coming really slowly and gently out of these yin poses. And step the right foot back. Right knee back meets the left knee. And if you want to pad your right knee before you move into the other side, go ahead. And then bring the left foot out to the outside of the left hand. Scoot that right foot back. And coming into your dragon pose with the left foot forward. First, bring the hands to the knees. And shift the hips towards the front of the mat. So bringing the right hip back a bit, bringing the left hip forward. And you can stay up here if you like. If you're going to bring the hands down, go ahead. Bringing the hands down on either side of the front foot. Let the top of the back foot rest on the ground. Again, find that soft edge. And you can feel that opening through the front right hip flexor. But it's not so much that it interferes with your ability to breathe nice and slowly. And close the eyes. I'd like to really bring that attention inward. Sometimes it helps to just not have all the visual stimulation. To just close the eyes and breathe and feel into the body. gently start to shift the hips back, hips stacked over the back knee. Bring the hands to the inside of the front foot and swing that left knee back to meet the right. I'm actually going to use a blanket under my knees for this next one. A little bit easier, a little bit more comfy. And we're going to take the right foot to the outside of the right hand. We're going to come into a twisted dragon pose. So bring the right hand to the right knee and just start to shift the left hip down, kind of twisting onto the outside edge of that right foot. And turn the gaze up to the ceiling. Notice, make any adjustments that you need to make here. Bring the right elbow up and use that hand to help you get a spinal twist. Making any adjustments as necessary. Just notice where you're feeling the stretch in the body. Come on up out of this one nice and gently. And bring the right knee back to meet the left. And we'll switch sides, bringing the left foot to the outside of the left hand. Bring the left hand up to the knee, elbow up, and start to twist the left hip down towards the ground, finding wherever it feels right for you, making any adjustments to that hand that's supporting the weight. Just trying to find your stability and your balance here. Push into that left knee for a bit of a spinal twist. Look up at the ceiling. And just notice if there's any differences on this side. And come on up nice and gently. Bring the hands down on the inside of the front foot and bring the knees back. Turn your wrists around, bringing the fingers to point towards your knees. I'm just going to loosen up through the wrists a bit after just putting a little bit of weight on them in those last two poses. So just sit your hips back as far as you comfortably can. Being really gentle with the wrists here. You just want a slight opening. Just a little bit of sensation. And go ahead and bring the hands back to the fingers forward position. And the next one is going to be sleeping swan. So what you're going to do is you're going to bring the right knee behind the right wrist. The foot goes to the opposite edge of the mat. And so the foot might be all the way back down by the opposite hip, and it might be up at more of a 90-degree angle. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that you're not causing damage to the knee joint. So wherever it is totally fine. And just really be gentle with yourself. Slide that left foot back. Let the hips square to the ground. You don't want to be leaning too heavily on one side or the other. Push into the hands, raise the chest up. And on an exhale, walk the hands out. You can come down onto the elbows. You can walk the hands all the way out if you have the space for that. Wherever you're at, just find your breath. You know you've gone too far if you can't maintain the long, slow breathing. So just back off a little bit if you need to. Just allow yourself to sink into the pose, melt into the mat. As we get into the connective tissues of the hips, the hips have the most connective tissue out of anywhere in the body. And the stress and everything gets held in the connective tissues. Allow the forehead to rest on the mat if you come all the way down. Not fighting or forcing anything, just allowing gravity to do all the work for us as we breathe into the pose and feel into the body. Start to raise the head up, walk the hands back, slowly raising the torso up, and sending the right knee back to meet the left. Actually, take the right foot out to the side and sit back onto the left heel. Kind of a variation on child's pose. tabletop. And we'll switch sides. Bring the left knee behind the left wrist. The right foot is behind the right hand. Remembering you don't have to make a 90-degree angle with your knee. That can be damaging if you don't have the space in the hips. And walking the right foot back. One thing I like to do is check to see if my leg, my back leg, and my front thigh are parallel to the mat. Inhale, push into the hands. And exhale, fold over the front leg. Coming down onto the elbows and forearms, if that's accessible. Finding that soft edge where you feel a nice sensation. And it's like just right. Not too much, but you are feeling something. And after a couple of breaths in this soft edge, maybe you found that the tension has released enough for you to come down just a bit more. Or maybe even to come all the way down, forehead resting on the mat. Again, find what feels right in your body. It really has nothing to do with what the pose looks like or how deep you can get into a pose. It's all about what you're feeling. Come on up out of the pose. Nice and gently. Walk the hands back. And gently bring that that left knee to meet the right. Coming back into tabletop pose. For this next pose, it can be pretty intense, so if you have a blanket, you can use a blanket, roll it up. If you have a bolster, that's great too. And if you don't have a blanket and you're pretty open through the quadriceps, that's okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to sit your butt down in between your heels. So the bottom should be making contact with the ground. If it doesn't make contact with the ground, then you can just use your hands to stay up here and don't go any further. But if you're feeling okay, you can start to walk the hands back. Room for myself here. You can start to walk the hands back. Maybe coming down onto the elbows. Coming into saddle pose. Just feeling what feels right in the body. If you're unable to come into this reclined position comfortably, don't force it. You're going to feel some opening through the quadriceps. You can allow the hands to rest beside you, palms facing up. You can bring the arms to cactus. Letting go of any attachments that you have in this moment. Maybe a thought that keeps coming up. Things on the to-do list. Just let them go. And just bring your attention back to your breathing. Always in the yin practice, just back to the breath. Back to the breath. Back to the breath. And slowly, as always, nice and gently coming out of the pose. If you were in the reclined position, just bring your weight to your elbows. And just work your way back to upright. And taking your time, never moving too quickly in a yin practice. We're going to bring our legs out in front of us. If you tend to have really tight hamstrings, you can sit up on a blanket, or you can roll the blanket up and put it under your knees. Just to kind of help you to get that pelvic tilt if you have a hard time reaching forward with straight legs. Inhale, plant the hands into the mat besides the hips. And exhale, start to fold forward, coming into caterpillar. Just getting that opposite action in the back if you were in the reclined saddle pose. Let the palms face up. Let the head sink down. Not forcing and not fighting. These forward folds have a really calming effect on the nervous system. Notice if the mind calms down a bit. Walk the hands back, coming into upright. Getting ready for our final resting pose, Shavasana. If you ever want a little bit of support for the lower back, you can take a blanket and put it under the knees. Just really gives the Shavasana a nice grounded feeling through the whole spine. And just roll the back down onto the mat. If you don't have the blanket under your knees, it's all good. Just make any adjustments you need to make. Palms of the hands facing up, the feet flopped open. The breath coming to a natural pace. Not forcing anything here. Just allowing the body to be. Not judging if the mind wanders. Just gently bring it back. Bringing it back to the breath. start to invite movement back into the body by wiggling the fingers and the toes. Maybe rolling the wrists and the ankles, waking up the body. Roll over onto your right side, bending the knees, letting the head rest on the right arm. And bring your left hand in front of the chest and start to push yourself up into a seated position, keeping the eyes closed. Come into your Sukhasana, or cross-legged position. Bring my hands in front of the heart. Just taking one more moment to be aware of the body. A moment of gratitude for how strong and capable these bodies are. And finally, a moment of gratitude and appreciation to ourselves for showing up for ourselves today and these bodies that we've been given, to take care of them and to hopefully give ourselves some more years doing the things that we love. Thank you for sharing a practice with me. Namaste.